Welcome. This is so exciting. I have to tell you, this is my 5th year teaching here at Ohio State in the Fashion and Retail Department. And every autumn, I'm amazed at how I get butterflies, and walking across campus is such a unique experience. So what I want to tell you is you need to sign in, and there's a sign-up sheet. There's several of them going around, so make sure you sign up so that we know that you are here today. And it is my pleasure to introduce our newest faculty member today. She joined us in August, and we are thrilled to have her. She comes from Express, where she was a textiles technologist and a graduate of Parsons Design. Please welcome Mrs. Ruiz Suer. Yuri Minkoff is the CEO and co-founder of Rebecca Minkoff, one of the fastest growing brands in the fashion industry, well known for innovative use of new technologies and the omni-channel customer experience. Let's hear how Uri is disrupting the retail world. Welcome.
First, thank you guys for having me. I just landed about 20 minutes ago. I tried to actually play a prank on Christine, who works with me, and told her that I had food poisoning and I couldn't come today, and then my plane ended up being late. So anyways, here we are. Well, you guys are super, super fortunate in that most of you are millennials, and that's really all of what we talk about today in the fashion industry is our millennials. And actually, as we start moving into Generation Z as well, although there are some differences in behavior that we see. But it's really all about you guys, and that's why it's this really exciting time, because the whole future is going to be designing for, merchandising for, and marketing for people that are in your age category with such a dominant shift. What's happening over behavior in terms of purchasing. So I want to go back. I'll talk a little bit about us and our brand. About 10 years ago, my sister called me, and she said, picked up the phone, she said, "Hey, Dad told me to call you." I said, "Why? What's going on?" She said, "Well, I want to be a fashion designer, and he won't help me. And he said, you're the entrepreneur of the family, and maybe you would help me, i.e. loan me money." And I had a successful software company at the time, and so I said, "Okay, I'll help you," at the end of the call. And I basically mortgaged my house. I maxed out all my credit cards. My wife actually called me one day from the grocery store, and she said, "Honey, there's a problem." And I said, "Yes." She said, "The credit card is maxed. I can't buy groceries." I tried 2 of them. And I said, "Well, there's a good story behind that." There's good news and bad news. The good news is you're going to have a beautiful handbag in about 2 weeks because I maxed all of our credit cards buying a lot of leather. The bad news is we have to figure out how we're going to eat for the next couple of weeks. So this is basically the level of personal investment in where we had gotten to and the realness of what we've developed. And what we have now is we built the largest global brand in fashion with a female designer who's a millennial. And it gets really powerful when you have a designer that's the same age and same sex as their consumers. And so we see this great progression from Donna Karan to her generation, Tory Burch in her generation, and now my sister Rebecca with her generation. So I'm just going to play a little video here to show you where our brand exists today as a little background. And so, yeah, so we've done a lot in these 10 years since we started in her 6th floor walk-up. And I kind of want to go through a little bit of what's been happening in the luxury space over these last 10 years and where we see it going. That's really the purpose of what we're, and the use of innovation that I want to talk about today. So before 10 years ago, really what you had is if someone had a luxury item, yes, of course they had the item, which meant they spent a lot of money on that or they bought something, but it also connoted an experience. Right? You couldn't find this luxury item just anywhere. It wasn't on the internet. There wasn't the proliferation of stores that we have today. So underlying that was an experience. They must have gone to France. They must have gone to Italy. They must have had some sort of an experience connected with purchasing or getting that. So it wasn't just the item itself or the article itself, but there was this underlying experiential part of it. And now what we've seen here is that today, with the rise of the internet, you could be on almost any website, right? On the one hand, you could buy used goods from eBay, luxury items. You can also be on Net-a-Porter or almost any different site that's out there, right? It's flattened that. So if I'm carrying an expensive handbag or if I'm wearing an expensive shoe, the idea of that experience is decoupled from that. Doesn't mean that I had a phenomenal experience. All it means is that I could have been in my bedroom or I could have been waiting by the subway and I could have bought that. But the underlying experience of that has gone away. And that's kind of an important part. And so all of a sudden, you had consumers everywhere in the world that are able to buy anything anywhere in the world. And so we're going to start talking about it because what's happened now is we have a rise of experiential brands, right? Because the experience and the product are now not necessarily coupled together, except for maybe a few brands where you have to go to a certain store and they're limited in what they are. But pretty much you can have access to anything anywhere. So now what do we have? We've moved forward with these brands in time to where even though I'm not a billionaire, I can pretend to be one. Because with Uber and with Rent the Runway, I can have an amazing gown for the evening. I can have my own personal driver. And so now I can approximate an experience. And these brands are allowing me to have these experiences that I maybe didn't have before. And this is a very important thing as we move forward, is what is that experience? And we know now that millennials in particular are spending money on experiences and on food. Right? It isn't just on luxury items. So there's this huge rise now in this shift towards adding an experiential nature to it. Because let's face it, when you go back 10 years ago, most of the brands, most of the stores out there were offering one-dimensional product because they assumed we were one-dimensional. Guess what? We've never been one-dimensional. We all are complicated individuals. We all have complicated personalities. And I'm not talking necessarily here about a mental illness. It's just how we've always been. But we've been afraid to share. We've been afraid to show. We've never been marketed to that way. So if I was an 18 to 34-year-old man, right, there must be certain things that I like. Same thing for females as well. But we know that's not true today. And so what's happened is the internet has given us a sense of comfort. I know that there are other people that are like me. There is power in numbers. I'm part of a community. And now what's happening is I'm safe to express myself, whether it's through Facebook or Instagram or the rise of these different platforms that are out there. I'm now comfortable because I know that you're just like me in a part of my personality, or you're just like me in a part of the personality. And now I feel safe in sharing who I am. So what we've also seen now is a rise, this explosion of brands that are tapping into the micro functions of personality of people that they're willing to associate with. Because now we all look at ourselves not as individuals, but as brands. There's 8 billion brands out there. And they're not just going to be shopping or experiencing with 1 or 2 brands as it was in the past. It isn't that I'm loyal to this one store, I'm just loyal to this one brand. I may have 15 or 20 different brands that I have access to on my phone right away that all appeal to different parts of my personality that I'm willing to now express and share. So what's great is there's never been a greater opportunity as a marketer, as a merchandiser, as a brander, and there's never been more of a close connection from brand direct to consumer. So it's this amazing time right now where you're seeing this huge proliferation of brands and concepts that are moving forward, simply because we feel safe in sharing who we are. We're willing to have this direct connection. Now let's also look at what's happened in the last 10 years. It's been the rise of platforms, right? So what happened? So formerly we had radio, TV, newspapers, even in design, even in fashion, right? It was a dictatorial relationship, right? I, as a designer, I'm going to tell you what you should wear. I, as running a media station, I'm going to tell you what that media is. Well, it's not like that anymore, right? It's become a peer-to-peer relationship. I'm going to have my dialogue with you on Twitter. That's my news service of the day. YouTube is where I'm craving my television, where we're going to create video. Okay? It's this new place, and now what we've seen is this rise in democracy of this connection between brand and consumer. And so really what we did about 10 years ago is Rebecca and I sat down and said, there's going to be this powerful shift away from just a dogmatic dictatorial design relationship, and it's going to move into a democracy. And there's going to be a sharing, not just sharing of brands, but also sharing in product development and ideas. And so from the beginning, we decided that, with my background in technology, that we were going to kind of push this envelope, and that we saw that this millennial female was moving fast. She was experiencing things. She was experiencing brands. She was moving forward. And so how could we embrace and adopt and disrupt things to create and move the power from ourselves over to her and to create this sharing environment? And so really the last 10 years, what we've looked at is these platforms have allowed us to be seen, right? They've allowed us to be seen by our customer in new ways. And they've started to mature. And I think you're seeing brands invest more in content on those platforms. But now what's really come forward is what has been arguably the most successful site in the world has been Amazon, right? And they kind of went out a different way. It's been a very scientific approach. You're looking at the funnel, you're looking at conversion, you're looking at attribution, you're looking at bounce rates, you're looking at how people come in and what are they responding to. And so now we're adding a science, right? So even when you talk about marketing or merchandising, where before it was art or instinct, we're starting to blend and getting to a 50-50 between science and the art, or science and the instinct, where you have all this information, right? To be able to track a consumer's user flow of behavior upon entry and moving through that funnel tells you a lot about him or her and what their thinking is. And so now what we're seeing is the next generation. Where we think we're going is how do we on this side, how are we able to see our customers better? How are we able to get insights into their movements, into their clicks, into their buying patterns and behavior, so that when we want to be seen, it can be in the most ideal way so that we can do what we want to do. And so we're in the middle of this dramatic shift right now where we're all looking at the scientific part of it and balancing that art. And for the first time, we're starting to talk about business intelligence within fashion. And we're marrying, what's great is when you start marrying the business intelligence side with the art, with the merchandising, with the design, it gets really powerful. So what Rebecca and I wanted to do is we said we're going to open retail now. And it felt like the store experience hadn't really changed much. I think the last major advance had been the Apple Store. And so we said, you know what, there are all these pain points. What are the pain points that we have when we're shopping? So the first one could be that, and a lot of them are social. They're human-to-human relationship. Are there pieces that are solved in e-commerce that are not solved yet in the store today? And can we fix them through technology in an elegant way? And so what we decided to do is we said, well, the first awkward moment is that first moment of communication between a stylist or a store associate and the consumer, right? One of you on either side might be an introverted type and might really not want to talk to the other person. So how can you solve that? Okay, how can you solve, the designer not being in the store, and can they have a hand in being able to help the customer? How can you solve, who here thinks the lighting in a fitting room is good? Okay, so how can you solve for lighting so that when she's trying on a bathing suit versus a holiday cocktail party and they have different end uses, you can solve that? And probably the worst experience is you're in the fitting room and you start calling out and there's no one there to help you, and so your skinny jeans are off, you got to put them back on, you got to go out, the door clicks behind you, okay, and now you're looking, or maybe you went half naked if you thought that the rack was close to you, okay, and then the stylist or the store associate comes over and says, well, that's not there, and you don't know whether they were lazy or lying or whether it truly isn't there. And so there's all of these experiences that we really felt the consumer felt marginalized, almost like you were working for the people in the store. So we said, what if we can put the power back into the hands of the customer, of the consumer? And we also had another theory, which is that a millennial wants to have one of two experiences. She either wants to be anonymous, like she's in her own music video listening to Pandora, Spotify, no one else exists. She knows what she wants because you guys are all super educated. You actually know more about our product than we do. So we'll learn from you every day, and that's how it is today, is that you're more well-educated than actually the brands themselves. And so you might not want to talk to anyone. You might not want to have that dialogue, so how could you have an anonymous route? But you also might want to be the person that says, I'm important, I'm the most important person in the world. I'm the most important person that I know. And I want to be treated as if I'm a celebrity movie star. And so how can you cater that so that we get away from the middle, right? The middle sucks, right? And so you want one extreme, either the movie star route or the anonymous route. And so we said, how can we kind of parallel that? So here's a video which shows what we've built in terms of what's been called now the store of the future. So this is in Soho. We now have 3 of these in the US. There'll be a 4th open in Chicago this November, December. So when you come in, there's this giant screen here, which is actually a mirror. Plays our runway video. That's Rebecca. She's coming over. So right off the screen, she can order herself a drink or browse through a lookbook. And that's basically a curated section of the things that Rebecca likes. So right there, you can see that lame jacket. She can add it to her room, choose her size, and they'll get a fitting room that'll be started to be set up for her. She enters her phone number. And when the fitting room is ready, she'll get a text message. Or when her drink is ready, she'll get a text message. So you're able to see the designer's focus kind of right then and there. Now, when you walk in the fitting room, we use RFID, radio frequency identification tags. And so once you cross the threshold in the room, it will bring up on the screen exactly what you brought in the color and size that you've done it. The first thing you might want to do is adjust the lighting. And you have 4 different lighting options, so anywhere from very broad daylight to if you're going to a club at night. And so you might want to adjust that right away to see how you look in different environments. From there, and what's been the most powerful thing, are recommendations. You can see what to wear it with, like you would in e-commerce, although here you can get everything right away. So from that, you just click literally on the screen, and you can have additional items brought to the room and see more details, see different product views. And so now, and then when you finish the session and you check out, you can see who your store associate is, so you don't wonder if someone's creeping on you. When they're coming. It's kind of like Uber. You see what they look like. And so it's been really powerful. And there's no cash wrap. So checkout's done right there in the fitting room with an iPad. Oh, sorry, I got in the way. Done right there in the fitting room with an iPad. You just swipe it right there. Or if you have PayPal, you don't bring out a card. If you've logged into the store using PayPal, you can just say, I want that one, thank you, and you can leave. And so what's great is that the consumer now controls the whole experience from the fitting room. So if you go in and you brought in a size 4 and it's too small and you need a 6, you literally tap on the screen, 6, bring to my room, and the store associate, their communication back to you will be, I'll be there in a minute, I'll be there in 2 minutes, I'll be right there. So your expectations are set. They're telling you when they're coming. And it's all this touch-based dialogue, which is what we're used to right now, right, through our phones, through our tablets. And so what's great is we've taken Rebecca and in essence, because the biggest problem you have every day isn't what to buy, although if that's your problem, that's amazing. For most of us, it's what to wear, right? What to put together. And so we realized that the missing element, the missing person within a retail setting was the designer, right? So based on my action, there should be a reaction. So when I cross that threshold with this jacket or with this blouse or with this dress, right? Now the designer's telling me what I should wear with that. And that's really powerful. So what we're seeing is that 30% of the people that are walking into the fitting room are asking for additional items that they didn't pick up on their first browsing experience, right? So they're adding to their basket based on the recommendations that Rebecca is telling them. What's happened there is we'll be honest, we're mostly a brand known for our handbags, but we're selling now 3 times more of the ready-to-wear than we thought we would, and we're having a huge ready-to-wear business in our store, clothing, because of these recommendations and because customers are getting confidence over what they should wear or what they should pair with different things. So it's become really a very powerful experience. The other problem is, let's say you don't want to buy something right away. What do? You take a photo, then you got to send it to yourself, okay? Then you got to go search online to find it later. No, we capture everything you've done in the fitting room and send you a text message after. So right after, you could see, oh, you brought in these 5 things. These are the colors. These are the sizes. And so you can then add it to wish list, you can share it with others, or the next time you come in, you could say, I was in here last week, could you recreate my fitting room? And they can do that. And so it's this data that kind of travels with you, and it's kind of self-set, so you can decide when to share it with us or when not to. Again, you can be anonymous or not, because we're not marketing via text message. We don't know your name at that point in time. There's no cameras in the fitting room. That's a common question we get, so there's no cameras. But it's this idea that it's building up this warehouse of information about you, and that you can then decide. So let's say you're having an e-commerce experience. You go to a different store, and you're like, hey, I've been to the store 10 times, I've tried on 50 different items, can you help me choose what's right for me? And now the stylist can see what your preferences are. And they're much smarter. That's why we call them stylists, because they can actually style. Now what's great also with them is they can see what's in each fitting room. So they actually have the pictures and the sizes. So if you want help, they're much more educated in how to help bring you stuff. And so that's kind of our first laydown of the store of the future. I'll talk about a couple other things, and I think we're going to go into some questions. So the next thing which we're really excited about as we kind of move into the future is virtual reality. We think virtual reality on two purposes will be interesting. One is content in the store. You know, we have the rise of Oculus Rift, and we have we leverage this Google Cardboard experience and I'll kind of bring that up now. And so we see this as having two different things. So we filmed our last, messing this up. So we filmed our last runway show in February with a virtual reality camera. So this gives you 360-degree audio-visual experience. So we wanted our consumer to feel like she was in the front row. She was there. She could kind of walk forward and almost walk with the models, look at the person next to her, turn fully around, hear the live musical performance from 360 degrees, have sight in 360 degrees. And so we realized that this can be a really powerful content driver in a store, right? To allow, again, experience is a key thing. So to allow someone to have experience when you come into the store. But also we're starting to think with, and again, this is out there a little bit of ways, what about the e-commerce experience in the future? How would an augmented or virtual reality scenario be created in the future where this might be your experience, where you're literally putting on your goggles or glasses, and is that a store of the future in your own home? And so we want to start getting experience with where we think that might go. The next thing we did, and this is a couple weeks ago, again moving into the future a little bit, is small leather goods. Right? We'd noticed that sales of small leather goods, which could be 20 to 30% of a leather goods house, were starting to flatten or decline a little bit. And we realized that they really weren't made for a modern millennial. And so what is her biggest pain point with that is charge, right? We all run out of charge. So what we did here, we'll pull up the next one, is we released, so on the top left, what we've done is, you know, we're not really carrying cash as much anymore. And so what we did is you have kind of a wallet in there, and it's a folio. It's a removable phone case, and you also can get 2.5 full charges. And you can take that with you. So we saw some other people that had, you know, handbags that had this in, and the handbags were either anywhere between $700 and $4,000. We said, that's really not fair to the customer. Let's give it to her for $120. And so now, for that, you can put this in any handbag and take this anywhere with you. And then what was great is we decided, you know, Hermes had their announcement with Apple last week that they're going to do this Apple Watch, and you saw their double wrap strap, and we said, oh, actually, ours is actually done. It's on the runway the next day, and you can actually pre-order it, and it's available this month. So it's this idea, it was kind of cool for us. Or just even the idea of the small leather good of, hey, if you're going to a club or you're going to Coachella or so forth, you know, all you need is your phone. You need a couple credit cards, your ID, and why not start wearing small leather goods crossbody? But what we really got annoyed with, and I think what we all are experiencing, is to show something now and have it available in 6 months is really isn't great. So how do we start disrupting this chain? So these were all available for purchase the day of our show in quantities, and that were there. So we're starting to look at the fashion supply chain. How can you show now, buy now, wear now, so the consumer doesn't have to wait months? So all these walked on our runway, and they're available for purchase right away. And the next thing we looked at, and here's the next thing that we picture that we put on a recent runway, is we're really excited about drones. We see this future. I was actually at a wearables competition last year that the CEO of Intel asked me to judge. And the winner was actually, it was just in prototyping stage. It was like this drone, but it fit on your wrist, okay? And you could kind of cast it off, and it would film you or take photographs, and it would come back to your wrist. And so I think we're envisioning a world, and what we view our runway as is kind of a commentary of the near future of millennials. It's really what we want to do. Where do we think millennials are going to be 2 to 5 years from now? So we think you guys will all have your own little personal drones, and instead of your selfie sticks, please don't have your selfie sticks, but that you'll all have your own personal drones, and it'll be really exciting, and that they'll probably be on your person. They'll probably be on your body somewhere. And so we kind of wanted to forecast and say, hey, here's where we think this is going. They're not ready yet right now with the industrial grade, with the spotter and the pilot and the whole thing, and it was kind of cool. But it's kind of like, where do we think these things are going as we have this fashion tech convergence? And kind of the last thing I'll talk about, which is kind of a longer range investment, is one of the things that Rebecca and I sat and talked about is that really what's enabled a lot of this for us over the last 5 or 10 years have been technology, right? You look at technical platforms, so whether or not they're e-commerce platforms, whether or not they're social media platforms, whether or not they're technologies like this. And the problem we looked at it was a lot of them are created by Caucasian men. And when we look at the world today, we said, you know, there aren't enough females that are part of this conversation in terms of creating technical tools, and there aren't enough diverse females. Because what's beautiful about this world is for the first time, we have this rising independent class of people in Asia and the Middle East, and it's this phenomenal world where everyone is equal and everyone gets their part and their say. And so what better than to create the future technology of the world that we're going to use within fashion than have it be done by females. And so we actually partnered with Intel, and we announced this a little bit ago, and we're going to start our programming this fall. And that Intel's putting aside $300 million to attack this problem. Because what they found is that it's women between their first and second year of college, those that have the aptitude and the capability to move into STEM careers are leaving. They don't want to go be a programmer somewhere. They want to work in fashion. They want to work in the arts. So there'll be a whole bunch of programming around advising and letting people know that, no, if you have those capabilities, there is a future career for you in fashion, in the arts, in these areas where you can apply your STEM mindset, because we need to add STEM capabilities into the fashion world. So Rebecca will be the face and the partnership of that program, and specifically addressing college campuses, so that as we look out over the next 10 or 20 years, we're hoping that more females are part of the tool and technology creation, because it'll probably be even much more adopted and used. So that's kind of the future as we see things moving. And besides 3D scanning and supply chain disruption and a lot of other great things, but I probably overdone my welcome in terms of my talking. And so if you want to join me, and we can talk about some other stuff. So thank you for listening to me on that.
Thank you so much. So these are questions that all came from our students. So maybe you'll hear one of your questions. You've answered quite a few of them, actually. So no, I think it's wonderful. But I'll try and touch on a few that maybe you can elaborate on.
Okay.
So as an innovator who's revolutionizing the tech-savvy man, what is your strategy to expand this target market?
Yeah, so what I didn't talk about there is, so a little while ago, you know, I'd kind of done some research and found that there was kind of a hole in the marketplace for men as well. So we've now launched the Uri Minkoff brand for men, which I think is what your question is getting towards. So we have leather goods and footwear, which is recently launched. We'll be having an appearance at Saks with one of your former alumni, Demetrius Stanley. Will be having a kind of a meet and greet there tonight. And so what I realized there is that, specifically within this space, and again, it's kind of a marketing angle, was, you know, if you've graduated, who here is carrying a Herschel backpack or something? Okay, so when you're ready to graduate from Herschel, you know, when you get into your late 20s, early 30s, and you're ready to graduate from that, and you know, what we've noticed is that there are some other brands that have kind of been in this space that are kind of de-emphasizing it or kind of going away. But I really was into this sense of, and there's been a lot of this Americana heritage military style within fashion recently, and I was like, you know, I don't, and I travel a lot, and what I realized is that in traveling, you could always pick out the American in the room. It was always like, that's the American, that's the American, that's the American, and I didn't like that. And I wanted to remove stereotypes. You could also pick out, you know, the Italian, the French person, you know, someone from Asia. You could pick them out. And I said, shouldn't there be a new kind of modern universal language of style that borrows from the best of Asia, the best of Europe, you know, the best of the Americas? And what would that look like? And I really started to start thinking through that. And I realized that, you know, a lot of the great product was over $1,000, and they said, what if you can create something between $150 and $500 for men that was leather good focused, that was modern, that was clean, And also a lot of people have inspirations as rock stars or musicians or actors or athletes. And I said, I'm really obsessed kind of with this new modern tech person, right? It's kind of the new establishment, the new media. So you look at the people who founded all these platforms that I've been talking about that said it's only white men. And you look at them, and as they're discovering their style, right? It's not like Mark Zuckerberg from 7 years ago who had his hoodie and was like, I'm not into style. Like these guys they want to learn, they want to know. So it's almost like, what's the new establishment? What's the new media as we're all carrying multiple devices? And I hate messes and clutter. So how do you start having things be cleaner and put things within things within things? So that's kind of what we launched the brand for, is a man who's tech savvy that wants to be a modern global citizen of style. And that's kind of what we're doing. So,
Wonderful.
yeah.
Lucky men out there.
I hope so.
Yeah. All right, so we'll move on to the next question. And again, I think you touched upon this a little bit, but love to hear more. So having the technology in stores seems very similar to shopping online. What would draw the customers to actually go to the store and try it out, especially those who do not have the stores near them?
Yeah, so it's great. We're actually seeing people traveling from all. Actually, our stores have become museums. So we actually probably have, I don't know, anywhere between 20 to 60 people a day that come in just to get tours.
Wow.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. I actually had, it was like the Harry Potter like boarding school experience. I had this yellow school bus showed up, and this headmaster came out with like 50 kids in high school, and the perfect board, and they came from Oregon. It was like the New York Stock Exchange, our store, and a couple other things. So it was really cool to talk to all of our little Harry Potters and Slytherins and Ravencrofts and all the different people. And so or we'll have 25 people from Chanel or Estee Lauder. It just become this museum stopping point. So what's cool, and so we've just told the store associates, right, embrace it. We told people, because I've had some people come in and say, oh yeah, I saw the mirror up front. I was like, did you go in the fitting room? No, that would feel creepy. I was like, no, just ask for the tech tour. Just ask for it. We have a whole tour we do, right, where you stop by, you get your drink and your popcorn. No, not the popcorn part, but your drink for sure. And so what we looked at is when you're shopping online, all you have is sight, right? It's just that sense of sight. But there are these incredibly powerful things, right, with recommendations and what you should wear it with and different images and so forth. And there's all these great visualizations, especially as we have this explosion of UGC, user-generated content, right? Are you guys familiar with this? So there are a couple services. We use one called Curelate. There's another one called Olapic. There's a lot of information and stuff going on right now. But basically, they allow for brands to take, if a consumer is use a certain hashtag about a product, right? They allow brands to be able to focus and incorporate those photographic assets, right, into an e-commerce experience. And what we found is that the conversion of consumer photos is much higher than that of model photos. And it's really been this huge explosion. So when you go on certain people's sites, and it's a lot of brands now, you'll see areas where it's literally users have put they want their 10 minutes of fame as well, but also, as you're going through, you're more likely to buy from seeing people that look like you or your peers than necessarily model shots. So to be able to allow, so an e-commerce experience, you can see all that. So when you go into a store though, all this rich data, all this rich filtering was gone. And it was you, whoever you went there with, and but you had all your senses there, right? All your senses, it became a multi-sensory experience rather than just sight. And so the whole purpose became, how do we take the best of that e-commerce experience, right? Information, data flow, speed, and bring it in there into this powerful world so that you have all your senses, you have the immediate gratification of buying product, you can try it on, but you're getting education, you're getting recommendations, you're seeing how to wear it, you're seeing how to style it, and it's just been really powerful. I think people have really liked the sense that Rebecca is there with them, and it isn't just, well, here's what I think you should wear. It's, if you like that top, right, then these are the pants that should go with that. And people really, really like that. And so that's why it's been incredibly powerful. And we're seeing people, that are flying in because they want to experience it. And obviously, if you're not there, you can't experience it. But yeah.
Great. Perfect. Now, this next question is a little long, but I think
Okay.
it kind of flows into what you were just talking about. So, as amazing and unique as this technological in-store experience sounds, do you plan on transforming top-performing stores into these innovative machines? If not, how will you evaluate which location should be this technological? Also, how would one deal with a customer who has no interest in using these advancements and is just looking for the normal shopping experience? I'm going to stop there
Okay.
because it's kind of long.
Okay, keep going. Okay, so on the first one, are you referring to other retailers or our own?
Your own.
Our own, okay. So I think, what we're doing right now is, it's interesting. McKinsey, are you guys familiar with McKinsey? It's kind of a consulting services firm, very, very well known. So they did a study that they published about 2 years ago that said, look, you guys are focusing on your store openings wrong, right? And you're focusing on where you're attacking fashion in the wrong perspective. You're looking at, we'll pick on something. You're looking at Switzerland and Belgium and maybe a couple other countries in the middle part of Europe, but actually there are 25 cities in the world that within the next 5 to 7 years, a majority of the luxury consumption will be done within these cities, within these 25 cities, these super cities. So stop focusing on huge geographical regions, because you could actually accomplish more in a single city than you would in multiple amounts of countries. And so in the store kind of gives you a philosophy around how to look at a city and how to kind of look at who are your wholesale accounts, what are your retail accounts, what's your e-commerce, and how do they all impact each other, and how do you look at warehousing and distribution in terms of those cities. And it's basically around, if you focus on your success in those cities, you have a very large, gigantic brand. So I think what we're looking at right now is rolling out these flagships in these key cities, because we know that's a mix of power within a certain country, tourism, business, commerce. We know they're great for people there's usually a lot of universities around them, first, second jobs. It's kind of in that market before people have families and then kind of move out. And there's this great urbanization that's happening right now anyways. And we know a lot of the C and D malls are in trouble, even some of the B malls are in trouble. And so as you have this urbanization and so forth, so I think we're focused on our store approach in these key flagship cities and making sure that is the best experience as well. What we're also looking at, and they kind of name them out, right, for you. So in the report, so in the U.S. it's, and I might be, hopefully I won't get this wrong, it's New York, L.A., Chicago, Dallas, Miami, D.C. I think are the 6 in the U.S. We swapped out one for San Francisco because San Francisco is the tech hub of the country, so we felt that was really important. So that's kind of where our approach is. As we look to do some secondary markets, they may not have everything, but it might be a different store concept. But where we have flagships, we'll do this.
Perfect.
That was your first one.
It was.
And I've gone amnesia on the second one.
Me too. So, how would you deal with a customer who doesn't have the interest in using the advancements?
Well, here's what's interesting is customers can shop in whatever way they want. So if they want to have nothing to do with the technology, if they don't want to go to the front screen and order a drink and talk to someone, they just want to go and see product, they can. You can shut off the technology in the fitting room, so you just say minimize display, it all goes away, right? So it's out of your face. So that's an option to have. So you can shop within a regular analog, if you will, experience if you want. What we're finding though is and so that's kind of up front. Someone will say, I don't want this, I just want what I want, and that's that. And that's totally cool. So it's not like you're forced to go on a certain route. Most people, once they see of it, like it, but you don't have to. It can be a regular store as well.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, how do you stay current and determine what the customer wants in terms of designs and the shopping experience?
Design in terms of product design, or design in terms of store design, or?
I guess I get to choose.
Okay.
Product?
Okay. So I think one of the things that we've really focused our attention and our minds on is, so I think because there's so many brands out there and there's so many different opportunities, it's really narrowing in and focusing on why do you exist, right? Who exactly is your customer, and why do you exist, and what are you offering them, from your design philosophy, from your price point, from that experience, kind of all those three things. And so I think that's one of the key things, is to really own in and narrow in on why exactly is someone coming here. And I think that the more narrow and the more specific you get, the better. So I think for us, it was working through why exactly do we exist for this customer. And what we realize is that at our core, we have this 27-year-old customer, and we know that we know how much money she makes. We know there's a lot of pressure because, when it's April or May and she has 10 weddings that are going to come up this summer, all with the same people, right? She might be making $40,000 to $60,000 a year. Could be more, but that's 10 weddings. That's 10 trips. That's a lot of date nights. It's a lot of weekend casual. We know and there's an emotion connected to that experience. And so we've really figured out within our customer, what are those emotional moments of when she's using us, right? We know that, when she's going to work and it's a serious setting, we like that business, but that's not the core of our business. We know that it's Friday night, Saturday night, date night. She wants to feel sexy. She wants to feel confident. She wants to look good, or that weekend casual. We know that, right? We know who she is. And so we really are studying what's going on in her life. What are these first experiences, right? It's choosing her university. It's that first serious job, that first serious dating. Like, what are those emotional things? And then we start really looking at what are her attributes. And then we also know what's our overall design philosophy for ourselves. And so we try and marry that with what do we think she should pay for something. So we don't start the reverse and say, here's our cost, therefore let me apply this factor on and go from there. We look at it and say, what would you buy that for? What would you buy that bag for? What would you buy those shoes for? What's fair? What can our brand command? But we call it the 3-second rule. So we want our customer to be able to look at something, go, I love this, flip it over and say, I don't need to ask anyone if I can purchase this right now. I can do it right now, and I can buy it at full price. And so we try and incorporate this full, we want you to buy at full price. We want you to buy right now. And so what's fair to her? And so I think those things all go into it. Obviously, we're looking at, there's trend forecasting services, and there's travel, and there's different codes that we have, and kind of all that comes into that mix. But we also know, here's our overall what she's looking for, and so that helps us sit there and say, here's this trend right now, and we'll sit there and say, we're not following that trend because it's not right for who the brand is and what we stand for. And so we'll look to see what's a modern interpretation within our lanes of our codes.
Wonderful,
Yeah.
thank you.
And then I think it's similar as we're looking to add in more technology. It wasn't, originally someone said, oh, you guys are going to build the most tricked out selfie mirror. That's people that kept saying, I know what you're doing. And so I think from that, so the answer to that is yes, we will. But we didn't want to start with that first. We really wanted to solve and go through what's that emotional moment when I walk in and I want no one to talk to me? Or what if I love working in a store because I love product and I really hate talking to people? And so what are these moments that, can we use technology in a way which eases those emotional pains? And so I think we're just constantly looking at what are these inefficient moments? So we're starting to look at a store like you would an e-commerce site. An e-commerce site, someone enters into the funnel at some point. There's all these places at which they can, leave and abandon that process. And so we try to look for what were all the either emotional or emotional or even physical attributes of a store, of places where she's going to abandon that process, and how could we solve them? And how could we use technology to kind of aid that experience? So we have 2 more things we're hoping to get done by February. I won't get into them right now, but
Top secret.
Yeah. But they're hard. Look, this stuff isn't easy. I think we were the first ones to kind of throw it down there. And even now, the 2 things I want to do, even yesterday I was in a meeting, people were like, no, that can't work. I mean, this is the 10th time, and I just keep going, no, it can and it should, and here's why. And at the end of 2 hours, I finally get someone on my team who says, oh, that could be cool. I guess I could see that. So hopefully I'm right with those things. But again, it's another experience that you want that you're missing within retail. And so I'm just obsessed with solving those.
This is exciting.
Yeah.
I can't wait to go to your store.
Yeah.
Great, well, I'll keep moving.
Okay.
So, was there a time when you made a mistake on your path to success, and how did you solve it? We're getting into the deep ones.
No, bring it on. Absolutely. Look, I've always been an entrepreneur. And yeah, you make mistakes. I mean, you make mistakes and you have those, Christine's smiling over there because she can see my mistakes. No, look, I think the biggest thing is I believe there's no shame in making mistakes. There's only shame in hiding the mistakes and not asking for help when you make them. Because if you make a mistake and you go like, hey, I messed up, here's what I did. Okay, cool, we can fix it, right? I believe you can fix it. But it's when it's like a month later and you've really gone down a bad path and then we have to go fix it, it makes it that much harder. That's kind of one rule that I have with people we work with is just raise your hand and say, hey, not happening this month or I messed up. Okay, cool, we'll solve it. So biggest mistake, was the question, was it the biggest mistake?
If it wasn't, I want it to be.
Oh,
the biggest.
you want it to be the biggest? I mean, a big mistake. So there's lots of them. I mean, there was a moment where I put on the runway. I really wanted. So I'm really all about consumer experiences that are raw and right now. And we had a big runway show. We had 1,200 people, amazing. And I was like, wouldn't it be cool if we could have a screen where consumers could leverage certain hashtags, so through Twitter, through Instagram, and their photos and their comments would be live streamed right there. And we could allow them to be part of the experience. And so we were going through it, and we got this screen, and it was supposed to be $100,000, and I got it for like $3,000, and because someone else had the screen before, and they were like, well, pay us for half. I was like, no, you're gonna get rid of it anyways, so just let me use it. I'll give you like $3,000. So I was really proud of myself. We sat down in the green room ahead of time, and I said, okay, guys, I just want to let you know there's gonna be a problem, and that someone's gonna put some pornography on here. Because we can gate this, and we can monitor what's coming in, but that wouldn't be authentic to our brand. So we sat there and we were like, okay, let's go. So all of a sudden, it's during the show, and the screen's up there, images are rotating through, and everything's great. And all of a sudden, we started trending. We became the number 3 trending topic on Twitter in the nation in this moment. And when you reach top 10 is when the porn sites start just slinging stuff. So all of a sudden, I'm looking up, and my sister's walking out for her bow, right? And all of a sudden, this pornography starts going across the stream, right? And other things as well. And it was just this moment. And then Women's Wear wrote, and they were like, technology fail, right? And then my sister was really mad at me, and it was this emotional family moment between the two of us. So that was a big, but it was a conversation. It was a mistake. We talked about it ahead of time. It happened. But that's part of what happens when we're trying this stuff out is you don't always know what's going to work or what's not going to work. I think also, look, this isn't easy, but there are very few companies that get to our size where the founders still control the company. It's a very rare sort of thing. It's very difficult. So that choice can make things hard at times, right? It's a very capital intensive business. We're building stores. These things cost a lot of money. We're investing in inventory. We're not going to get paid on things, for months in advance. And so sometimes you make decisions where if you had, $100 million in the bank, it might be different. But so it forced us to be scrappy. It forced us to be entrepreneurial. It forced us to make mistakes on our own dollars. And so that's kind of part of our culture. Sometimes it's great. Sometimes it sucks because you go, I had that idea first and I can't execute on it. I have to wait. And so you get all these sorts of things. And so whether that's a mistake or not, but we're still happy that she and I can sit across from each other at a dinner table and say, well, here's what we want to do. And we don't really have to ask anyone else. And we appreciate that. But it's not easy to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you. So again, I think this is flowing nicely.
Oh, here's a nice one. Although it wasn't a mistake that we intentionally made. So it was okay. So we had been made our first 3 years. We were made solely in New York, and then our product got to a level of sophistication as well as the size that it wasn't possible. They could only make our factories in New York could only make 600 bags a week. And so for the first couple of years that was enough. But then all of a sudden it's getting too much. We found a factory in Asia. We said we were going to go with them, and this first batch of product that came out, and this company also manufactured for Kate Spade. And so the first batch of product that came out, the hardware on the outside said Rebecca Minkoff, the hardware on the inside said Kate Spade. And we didn't catch it right away, but we had really but these bloggers in these forums, like it was like an army of protests, and these people banded together, these consumers banded together and decided that they were going to go tell every store in the country that we had Quebeca Spankoff bags, is what she became known as, and how bad. And so that was like 3 years in, right? We were like, we're gonna be out of business. We have a new brand called Quebeca Spankoff. We're gonna get sued, and she was crying, and it was so that was, we had gone our first time with a new factory. We didn't have the discipline, the structure that we have today to figure out all the different things you go through. So that was a moment. We got them all taken out of the store. We destroyed them, but that was a tough moment. So just sharing,
I love that one. I'm
sharing
glad you
humility.
shared it.
Yeah. Okay.
So how has being the CEO of your sister's business impacted yours and Rebecca's relationship as siblings? Is it easy to play off each other's stylistic points of view?
Yeah, so I guess I was speaking at another university recently, and I said, well, there's one thing which, and our spouses were actually in the audience, there's one thing which is, so we're a very close family, and so that kind of frames the conversation degree. We know we're going to have all of our holidays together, but we know we can never get divorced. So that like frames, that's like a guardrail, right? Is right, and our spouses both got really upset at it. Like, what does that mean for us? Where are we? I was like, no, you guys, we're all cool here. But that frames that. I think there's been a couple times where like our father called us and said, now children, I love you both very much, we need to solve this. So that's maybe every other year. So maybe it's been 4 or 5 times where we've had that call from dad. But mostly I think we have complementary skill sets. We also were raised in the same environment, so it's easy to call out and say, hey, you weren't raised that way, or hey, these aren't our values, or who do you think you are? Or, we'll have those conversations. These things happen, right? If someone's head gets a little too big. So I think we can reference what were our values, how were we raised. We have children that are similar ages that play together. We see each other on holidays. So that kind of creates this overarching structure. And I think we also have been good at figuring out what are we each good at. How do we start surrounding ourselves with people around each of us that are better at certain things that we might not be, and how do we kind of collectively, what are her goals, what are our goals? I'm not going to lie to you and say it's never stressful, because it is. It can be with any partnership, much less a sister or a spouse. But we have a great relationship. We see each other every day. Our kids play together. We go on dates with our spouses together, and so it's a great relationship. And also because the brand is our name, that also frames it as well. So we have to think of it in a different sense. But it's fantastic, and I wouldn't do it differently. Although she does get me back now, because I used to terrorize her growing up. I was the evil older brother. So now, and she does something, she's like, I'm just getting you back for how you treated me then. So that's kind of part of it as well.
Thank you. So what has been the most satisfying aspect of your career?
I think the most satisfying thing is that, especially now, being unique or having a certain talent and being persistent enough and working hard enough or having the right idea, like, you can cut through and you can achieve whatever your definition of success is for yourself. And I think there's more of an accepting this, and people are wanting that. And so it's this time now where, a lot of the rules of who was your family, or what environment did you grow up in, or where did you go to school, or where was your last job, or what's your age, or what's your skin color, or what's your sex. Like, the fact that these things aren't the overriding thing, and that, especially in this world, it's like he or she, with the best art or the best merchandising skill or the best sales capability or whatever that is, can really float to the top. And that's kind of the most satisfying thing, is that, 10 years ago, I had a software company, right? And now I'm, people call me the most innovative CEO in fashion. And now I'm designing for my own brand. And so, yes, I used to steal my sister's Vogue magazines and Harper's Bazaar when she was younger, but I've looked at it and said, I've spent the last 8 years in factories. You know, I know product now, I know leather, and so to be able to go from a totally different industry and to be able to cut in and to be able to gain acceptance and be able to do well and carve out my own niche that's nice for me, that's really nice. That's something that I can be proud of. So that's kind of cool. And that's the same experience that for all of you have as well. Is we're in this new age where it's like the rules are changed, and that almost there are no rules, and that you guys can have your own success in your own path, and that's what's really awesome about today.
Perfect. Well, I think we only have time for one more question, and it's, again, I think you were starting to kind of share it with everyone, but what advice would you then give to this group about succeeding in the fashion industry?
I think that's a good question. I think that, you know, when you're starting, it depends, right? If you want to have your own brand or do your own thing, that's one route. If you want to work in a different one, that's another. I think the value of apprenticeships and internships are really important, and it's something that we really look highly on. And that if you're able to get, you know, one or two with some brands that are really considered thought leaders or that are innovating in a certain way, that's really going to help pave a great career for you. I've had several people, either former interns or apprentices, or even their parents, that have reached out to me and said, hey, you know, my daughter or son has this job today because you took the first risk and allowed them when they were 18 or 19 to come in, and because that was on the resume, then they went to Chanel, or they went to Hearst, or they went to Condé Nast, or they went to someplace, you know, afterwards, and it's because you had that stamp there first. So I think I wouldn't devalue that apprenticeship, internship process and choosing wisely there. I think we're in this great world of change right now, and I think, you know, if you want to go work for a large corporation, that's great too. You'll learn some great experience. But I think also when you're younger and starting out, there are so many great brands that are changing and innovating right now, and I think it's this period where you have some brands or things that just aren't as relevant, and they're you know, I named some before, but you look at what Warby Parker's doing, you look at what Bonobos is doing, you look at you know, this company in California, Everlane, is doing. You just look at some of these new companies and you go, this is going to be a model for the future, you know. You know, or even you look at a company like Reformation, right, and said, okay, we're going to have eco-friendly. We're going to make in California. It's going to be eco-friendly, like, and we're going to fill product in 2 or 3 weeks' time. And we're not going to invest in inventories, and we're not going to be stuck with all this stuff. And so, you know, a lot of these companies are small, but it's this sense of innovation. So, you know, choosing well on a path on a company that's going to innovate, that's going to set the new bar for the future. Because I think we're in this generation gap right now where, yes, I think there are certain luxury brands, there's maybe a handful of them that will always survive and make it. But when you get a tier down from that, unless, I think that marketing message is going to miss the millennials and Gen Z. I think they're consuming information in a different way. I think they're experiencing it in a different way. And unless the brand that you're working with is part of that new conversation, it's going to lose its relevance at some point over time. And so I think it's work and associate yourself with people and brands that you think are going to be relevant 5-10 years out from now, because the world is changing so fast. And I would not underestimate at all getting an understanding of how things work in Asia. Yes, there might be a slowdown right now in China a little bit, but it is so powerful. It is so strong. The shopping culture in Japan, in Korea, in China, in Hong Kong, it's unlike anything you would see here today. And you see how, and I've got to spend a lot of time recently with a lot of luxury brand CEOs, and their whole focus is on setting up shops and having experience that cater to the tourists from Asian countries, and where they're going, and where they're showing in Europe, and where they're showing in the US. And so getting some experience with Asian culture or a brand that's having an Asian strategy, I think is really important, because when you look at the rise of success in that culture, it is going to be overwhelming, and I think we would all be remiss to not look at it. So look for brands that are using innovation, look for brands that have a great and evolving Asian strategy. You know, at some point we'll get to India and Africa after that, but right now Asia is just a really amazing place. And so those are things that I would kind of start looking at.
Wonderful. Well, oh my gosh, yep. Thank you so much. This
Any
was
other-
amazing. Okay. Nope. I think our time is up. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm gonna shake your hand.